It's a great privilege to be here this morning, and thank you very much for the warm welcome. As has been said, the last time I was on stage was actually at the Natural History Museum. I'm pretty confident that we don't have any dinosaurs here. The message there was obviously evolve or die. From my perspective, it's a very exciting time to be at Dell. It won't come as a surprise to you that Ed's comments align pretty much to our vision of the future. You may have seen our ambitions to acquire EMC, and obviously with that, VMware. I will spend a bit of time talking about EMC and VMware, but really I wanted to spend some time talking about that as the latest step in our transformational journey. So I guess most of you are familiar with the story of Dell, 31 years old. I have been here 12 years, spent the first 9 of my career in Singapore, doing a variety of different regional Asia Pacific and Japan roles, services all the way through to designing, building, engineering all of our displays and client peripherals. So a very eclectic career within Dell. I figured out this morning if I make it to 20 years, I'll have been half of Dell. So at 20, we'll be 40 years old, and Michael will be approaching retirement, I doubt. Anyway, obviously, the fact that we are here today talking at a partner event is testimony to the fact that we are evolving. So when I joined 12 years ago, we were only Dell Direct, and so you could only buy anything that we did from Dell. The fact that you now can buy everything that we do from anybody talks to what we call the omni-channel. And so that is an example of the transformation that we've been making. I think the fact that we're acquiring EMC is another testament for that transformation. So, as I said, we're 31 years old. Our first 25 years, we pretty much bought nothing. Over the last 6-7 years, we've acquired 41 companies. And those range from storage, such as EqualLogic, Compellent. They range to software companies, such as Quest. They include security companies, such as SecureWorks. And they include software integration companies like Boomi. So a very, very different company from perhaps the one that we're most known for, which was where Michael started 31 years ago in his dorm room with PCs. I guess actually as a leader of a country within the Dell kind of ecosystem, and we're number 3 in Dell's economy after the US and China. We were number 2 in terms of the countries that we were in. So Michael started in the UK 28 years ago. Obviously, it's a very, very different company from where we started. And actually, that's kind of the legacy, the blessing and the curse of the Dell brand. So if you think about it, if I spend any time with a customer, almost invariably as I walk through the portfolio, I hear the words, "I didn't know you did that." Because we're anchored to the public perception. So part of this transformational journey is trying to move and make sure that you go away saying, "I know that they do that." So we will talk a little bit about that as I go through this morning. I guess the important thing about our transformation journey is really around our destination being defined by customers. And so we kind of look to the future, guided by a customer, and then engineer back to determine what we need to build. And I guess there are 2 big themes, and you've heard them both this morning from Ed. One of which is digital transformation, and the other is about security. I mentioned security, we acquired SecureWorks, but that is really the pinnacle and the service offering that wraps around everything from Sonic Wall, our data encryption offerings, really a layered approach to security. And it was great to see us announce yesterday as the number 1 in the Security 500. And that's an example of where people, I didn't know you did that. So we are the number 1 security company in the world, which again is a surprise. Now clearly, as we look to try and navigate our way through the go shop period, the regulatory authorities, and close out our EMC acquisition. Ideally in around the May to October timeframe, we will also be able to add RSA and a host of other capabilities that add to that security portfolio. The other thing I wanted to talk to is about that digital transformation. and so we'll spend a few moments talking about that in a while. But while I can, I thought I'd spend a few moments of your time to talk about EMC, and probably some of the things that are crossing your mind. It obviously is a substantial storage business, but it's not just a storage business. But I think that the storage piece is something that overshadows. I was reading just after we announced the acquisition, which is testament to my comments around the brand earlier, in the FT, which said PC company buys storage company. And clearly huge frustration to be seen that way, both for ourselves but also for EMC. On the storage side of the house, what's really interesting is when you look at it, there's incredible complementary portfolios. So whichever way you cut the respective businesses, whether or not you use technology, whether you look at block and file, whether or not you look at the size of implementations, they're incredibly complementary. There are a few pieces of overlap, particularly in the mid-market, but the reality is we'd much rather have overlap than gaps. If you talk to an Eskimo, they will talk to you about 26 types of snow. In the storage world, we just went through our own portfolio, well into double digits. If you go through EMC's, substantially larger. But if you crystallize it down, we broadly have one, our SC portfolio, and they have roughly about 7. We will have 8 as a combined entity. The real important message for you, whether or not you're an EMC customer or a Dell customer, obviously from our point of view, there'll be no customer left behind. So you haven't made a decision that isn't future-proof. And that future-ready message is something that we're really talking to, and that was the comment about the dinosaur, evolve, be future-ready now. So from our perspective, it's a very exciting time, as I said. We see the EMC acquisition as creating an unbelievable enterprise powerhouse, and really highlights the latest stage in our transformation. I said that I'd talk a little bit about other parts of the EMC portfolio, and one of the things obviously is VMware. You've heard their vision of some of the challenges that are going on in the marketplace. Obviously the way that we're going to be managing VMware is a separate entity. We've got a series of partnerships in the marketplace already that are very concerned about that. We're reassuring them that despite owning VMware, we're still going to be open and collaborative with the whole ecosystem. And I'll talk a little bit about the way that we approach our customers. But VMware will be free to get on and do their business. Obviously, that encompasses not just the software ecosystem, but also the hardware ecosystem. So there's a number of hardware partners out there who are a little bit concerned if you think about VCE. And obviously, from our perspective, that will continue, and we are going to be agnostic and open around how that partnership evolves. I guess from an EMC point of view, culturally, people will go, oh, crumbs. The reality is we had a 10-year partnership. Many of you will remember Dell EMC. It's probably one of the longer-lasting partnerships in technological history. We had a $2 billion business as a partnership together. We know each other pretty well. I guess about 6, 7 years ago, we went our separate ways and the deal didn't get done. It's getting done now. And so we're very confident about the nature of coming together. So much so that actually if you go back in time, most of the EMC platforms were using Dell technology within them to be able to deliver their solutions to marketplace. And that OEM solution is something we do and will do, not just for EMC in the future, but obviously a host of companies. And obviously our OEM business does everything from kiosks to nuclear submarines. And you'll find the Dell technology embedded in somebody else's product. And for us, that's a very different business. If you think about it, we've traditionally built infrastructure, and we have moved to start building our customers' products that they then sell on. Which really then brings me to the way that we look at the world and some of the digital transformation. I think Ed did a really nice job of talking to some of the challenges that we're seeing with regards to software. There was a time when I would get up and talk about the concept that every company needs to become a bank. And if you think about that, if you go to Ford, you take out a loan, get a free car. And that was really the migration of the 80s and 90s. We are a bank, by the way, so if you do have challenges around that, Dell has a banking license and we can provide Dell Finance for you. I think the new paradigm is every company needs to become a software company. And Ed spoke very eloquently about the way that we're seeing technology disrupt marketplaces, create huge opportunities. You only have to reflect on his comments around Airbnb or Uber and the way that they are disintermediating the marketplace, interestingly, disintermediating capital. So if you think about the New York taxi company who acquired 1,000 licenses, the plates, in order to really corner the market in New York. They were borrowed up to the hilt to be able to do that. And generally speaking, capital beat labor. Now, Uber comes in, they can't pay back their debts, labor's beating capital. Completely disrupted that marketplace. Now, that's what I mean about you're going to need to migrate and that digital transformation towards software. And if you haven't figured out where you are on that journey yet, it's probable that somebody else is having a go at it. So that comes back to this evolve or die dinosaur theme. I guess within that kind of thinking starts to create something, what I would describe as a digital fear. We've got to migrate, we've got to move. And so we've got to abstract effectively to a software layer. And given that you're all constrained somewhat on budgets, I assume you're all constrained on budgets. If you're not, come and see me straight afterwards. But in order to be able to afford that, you're having to drive efficiency and convergence in your infrastructure layer that allows you to abstract to the software. So you end up with a lot of the converged kind of infrastructure that we've heard about this morning. You hear about cloud, and you hear about, I guess, the integration and collaboration that's required across the industry. It's interesting if you think about the fact that you hear people saying everything's going to move to the cloud. You know, I would say that everything, anything is never going to happen. So hybrid is going to be the answer there, but that applies to almost every environment that you like to think about. You know, from our perspective, I've talked about VMware being able to operate separately. That's because we recognize that the ecosystems are going to be open. You are probably going to have a hybrid environment, not just cloud and on-premise, but between vendors. And when I speak to customers, they don't ask me to build proprietary systems. They don't ask me to make it harder to do business between partners. They ask me to make it easier and more seamless between partners so that they can pick and choose and optimize. From our perspective, that plays absolutely into the Dell DNA. We have designed our business to be open, no proprietary stacks. You can mix and match. If you think about other conversations I have with customers, I rarely get asked to divide my company in half so that you can deal with two people. From our perspective, there is a massive advantage for you from scale. And so we were a great believer in the sort of go big or go home. And obviously the EMC acquisition is part of that go big. So scale drives efficiency. If you think about Dell's legacy, we come from supply chain. That was exactly where we drove efficiency into the PC business, and that journey continues. So we see massive advantages from scale. Michael has always been something of a sort of a counterintuitive strategic player. It's worked out pretty well for him. So while others are dividing, we're growing. And we see that as obviously to our advantage and ultimately to our customers' advantage. If you think more broadly about that digital transformation, I would say that cloud journey is the everything anywhere is, as I said, not likely to happen. I would align it to perhaps the demise of the PC, which we've heard so much about. And so if you think about the PC, a couple of years ago we were told that it was a limited time. At that point in time we were selling about, globally, as an industry, about 160 million PCs a year. We're now selling 300 million PCs a year. There are 1.8 billion PCs in the marketplace. About 600 million of them are past their sell-by, over 5 years old. There is a huge PC business that we will continue to serve and continue to provide the best possible products. In fact, the XPS 13 has won more products than any other PC in history. So our commitment to innovation, our commitment to the PC has never been stronger. In fact, part of the journey that's enabled this transformation and the acceleration of the transformation has been about us going private. And so 2 years ago, you'll remember, Michael took us out of public ownership and took us private, and that's enabled us to not really be locked to a 13-week horizon. It's enabled us to take much longer investment decisions, and if you effectively remove one of the stakeholders within your business, you've got more time to focus on the remaining stakeholders, which are our people and our customers. And so I've talked about our destination being defined by our customers. That has got stronger as a consequence, and certainly our investment has. So we have got a 27% increase in patents over the last 2 years. We've got double-digit growth in our investment in R&D, and we will continue that journey. So hopefully what I've given you today is a little flavor of the rationale with regards to why we are looking to do what we're doing, scale, our customer-driven philosophy around what are the challenges that we see in the industry, and that's really around this digital transformation, your requirement to abstract to software, what that means for the infrastructure layer, and then security. I hope I've also given you a flavor of the fact that we are an end-to-end solutions company. Now that can be something of a cliche, being end-to-end solutions company, but the reality is, in order to be end-to-end, as Michael loves to say, you have to have both ends. And actually now we are the only company in the marketplace at scale that can do that. Now, from our point of view, if you look at a lot of where we see personal compute and cloud client compute, you see the integration of traditional PC, traditional enterprise having to be together in order to be able to build those solutions. So we see it as a very, very important part of being able to be end-to-end. We're committed to being end-to-end and the both ends, and from our perspective, the journey will continue. So, as I said, you have it, the journey, we're end-to-end. Thank you.